the shadows, bound for the gallows, a dead man walking, so love came calling. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. 6 feet under, I thought it was over, and answered a prayer, the voice of a savior. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. Only at once I came alive. This beating heart, these open eyes, the grave let go, the darkness should have known. You're still rolling strong. You're still rolling, rolling on. You're still rolling strong.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan. I'm a volunteer at Paris Presbyterian Church, and we're really happy to see all of you logging online for our virtual service this morning. It's great to see so many people connecting with us over the course of the week, either through the online service or through our virtual small groups. If you would like to learn more about the life and the works of our church, please contact us at the email address you'll see on the screen. That's contact@parispres.ca. Now, it's a really special day today, and we've got some messages for some special people.
My mom's fantastic because she takes care of me when I'm sick. She comforts me when I'm sad. Thank you, Mom, and happy Mother's Day.
My mom is awesome because she puts other people first, whether as a mom or a grandma, a wife, friend, neighbor, or nurse. She's always there for you. And because she makes really good pies and cakes and cookies and those little muffin thingies that taste like donuts, they're really good. So from Wanda and me, Mom, happy Mother's Day.
My mom's awesome because she taught me how to cook.
No, my mom's more awesome because she gave me her intelligence, so I didn't have to get it from my dad.
But my mom is more awesomer.
Because she supports me in everything I do.
Wait a minute. Don't we all have the same mom?
Well, then she must be awesome.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Among many other reasons, my mom is awesome because she's been an excellent example of compassion and unconditional love. And shout out to my grandmother for having my dad on Mother's Day. So happy birthday, Dad, and happy Mother's Day, Mom, and to all the moms out there.
Hey Mom, thanks for everything that you've done for us. Thank you for being such a great person. Happy Mother's Day!
Good morning everyone, happy Mother's Day. Many of you know my mom is Ruth Leach. I call her Mom. I've been incredibly blessed my whole life to have her in my corner from the time I was a little girl to yesterday. She has been a huge blessing in my life. Two things I can think of. When I was a single mom working full-time, she used to make a healthy meal for my kids and I twice a week. And I would meet my dad at the 403 at Red Stakers and pick it up. And that was one night we didn't have to have Kraft dinner and peanut butter sandwiches. The other thing is that you can give that woman any piece of clothing with a stain on it and it will come back spot-free. We have no idea how she does it. It's just amazing. Her grandkids all love her homemade mac and cheese and her scalloped potatoes. We are blessed in so many ways to have Mom in our lives. So happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you, and I'm so glad that God chose you for me. Have a great day.
My mom's awesome because she does my hair. And she lets us have showers. And I love her. My mom's awesome because she gives us food and water to live life.
Ellie?
My mom's awesome because she let me have a shower.
She lets you have a shower? Wow.
Happy Mother's Day! Happy Mother's Day! Woo! Bye!
So moms, we hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day today. We hope that you get everything you're looking for. We really appreciate you and everything that you do. Now, let's join Wanda on our praise team as we sing some songs. And after that, we'll join Joel as he concludes his series on finding joy. Have a great Sunday.
When we were lost ones, you were the shepherd that carried us home. When we were prodigals, you ran to meet us with open arms, and we can't hold back our praise. When we were refugees, you were the one who took our sin. When we were enemies, you paid the price for all our sin, and we can't hold back our praise. This is the sound of adoration. Oh, how we love you, Jesus, we love you. You are the joy of all creation. Oh, how we love you, Jesus, we love you. You are the risen one. You conquered death and made a way. You sang our freedom song. Now we are dancing on our chains, and we can't hold back our praise. This is the sound of adoration. Oh, how we love you, Jesus, we love you. You are the joy of all creation. Oh, how we love you, Jesus, we love you. By the cross, I am free. Your grace changes everything. I was blind, now I see. Your grace changes everything. By the cross, I am free. Your grace changes everything. I was blind, now I see. Your grace changes everything, everything. This is the sound of adoration. Oh, how we love you,
Well, welcome. It's good to have you joining us once again. I know you're probably thinking, if you've been tracking with us the last little while, this is not my regular attire, whether online or actually in person. But for those of you who know me, realize that there's really three instances in life that I wear a suit. Weddings, funerals, and you probably guessed it, Mother's Day. Some mums want flowers or chocolates or a card or a gift certificate. My mom, she wants to see me in a suit. And so a couple of years ago, I started this tradition and thought, even though we can't gather in person, I thought I would bust out my finest for you. So, Mom, this is for you. Happy Mother's Day. It was great to hear some of the other people in our church share the impact that their mom has had upon them, both older and younger. And I recognize that on this day, it's a day to celebrate women in our lives. It's a day to celebrate just the impact that women have upon all of us. And so hopefully it's a chance for you to reach out, perhaps not in person, but in different ways, and just be an encouragement for those women in your life that have been an encouragement to you. Because when I think of my mom, I would answer the question, my mom is awesome because she is an encourager, not only for me, but for others as well. And so take it as an opportunity, perhaps today or perhaps even in the coming days. As Ryan mentioned, we're going to be concluding our series called Finding Joy. But before we jump into that, I just want to give you again a little bit of a sneak peek into what is coming. Starting next Sunday, that's May the 17th, we're going to begin a new series called I Have a Question. And it's a series that is based around questions that I've wrestled with or others have wrestled with when it comes to faith, when it comes to the Bible, when it comes to sometimes the difficult things around following Jesus. And so you have one more week left. If you have a question that you'd like to maybe have heard response in this series, you can send me an email. You can put in the comments section, whether you're on Facebook or watching on YouTube. Just a chance for us to continue to connect together. This is a great series that if you know someone who perhaps is skeptical, perhaps is really kind of uncertain about what faith is like, invite them. They can do it from the comfort of their own home. This coming Wednesday on Facebook, we're going to introduce what the first Sunday is going to be. And so jump on our Facebook page on Wednesday and you'll be able to track with us. But today we're going to conclude this series we started 3 weeks ago called Finding Joy. And it's been really cool for me to hear from so many different people in terms of what brings them joy in the midst of life. Last Sunday on Facebook, someone commented that they were able to name a calf on Zoom. Very cool. Not something I've ever done or probably many people have done. And that brought a certain amount of joy. And this series has been focused upon the reality that in life, we can find joy from many things. We can find joy from family, from friends, from work, from recreation, from a good meal, from so many things. And that's great. But the question we're looking at is there a place of ultimate joy? Can joy move beyond just simply the external, the situations we find ourselves in? Because what we've been finding over the last number of weeks, as we've jumped back into the Bible and looked at a very intimate letter that was written by the Apostle Paul to a group of Christians in Philippi, he pushes the envelope to say, can you find joy that goes beyond what is happening to you? Because what's interesting is that Paul is writing from a place where the external environment is not good. He's in prison. He's awaiting trial. He's separated from those he loves most. Yet Paul's entire theme of this letter is around joy. And as we've worked through it the last number of weeks, we realize that Paul lands on a place of understanding that his ultimate joy is found when he focuses his life upon Jesus. That recognizing that oftentimes we can't control what happens to us, but we can live with the confident assurance that no matter what, God is with us. God is at work in our lives and through our lives as well. And so this has been a place where we have continued to come back to. And this week, as we conclude our time together, I want to look at kind of one of the impacts that this has upon our lives. Because perhaps you're in a place where, you believe in Jesus, but you're kind of wondering, well, what difference does it make in my life? One of the great promises that Jesus gives to us is actually found in the Gospel of John. And it comes in John chapter 10 when Jesus says these words, I have come. And you almost want to stop there because you may ask the question, why did Jesus come? Why did Jesus live and then die and then rise again? What is it all about? And this is what Jesus says. He says, I have come so that you may have the abundant life. The abundant life, the life truly worth living. I think sometimes we fall into the trap of thinking that belief in Jesus is really all about what happens when we die. That I believe in Jesus and I've punched my ticket to heaven, but then we just kind of go about and live the rest of our life kind of however. But what Jesus wants for us is not only the wonderful promise and assurance of eternal life, and listen, we're gonna get there in a couple of weeks, but that he wants us to experience the life truly worth living. And so that's where we're going to land here today. When we start to realize that faith in Jesus steps beyond belief and starts to impact behavior, because what Jesus wants for us is a life that is fully transformed. And so we're going to turn back to the words of Paul, the very end of his letter. We're going to start in chapter 4 and just read a few verses, and then we're going to unpack it for us here today. Paul says in Philippians 4, verse 4, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. For I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Paul makes some rather interesting statements there. He begins by saying, rejoice in the Lord always. Now, we can look at that and say, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm supposed to find joy in Jesus. But the word that catches me up is the word always. Like, is that even possible? Is that even a reality? Like, how do we rejoice in the midst of all things? Like, when things are not going well or when things are not going according to plan. But then Paul picks up that theme as he says, for I have learned to be content in all circumstances. Being content, I think, in life is something we all desire. No matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what you believe about Jesus, no matter how much stuff or success you have, I think we all want to live a life that comes with a sense of satisfaction. I don't know what kind of music you listen to. Feel free to drop it in the comment section. But as I was thinking about music, oftentimes music picks up on this theme, this desire to find satisfaction. I'm not sure if you're a Rolling Stones fan. Actually, I saw on Facebook recently a picture of the Rolling Stones, and age has not been well on them. But they sing a song that says, I can't get no satisfaction. And I so appreciate that song because it's that theme of I try and I try and I try, but I can't get no satisfaction. Or another one of my favorite bands, U2, where their song is, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. That they're on this journey in life and they're looking, but they still haven't found what they're looking for. Maybe you can resonate with that. That in the midst of life, we're looking for the sense of satisfaction, of being content. Which is why when I read these words of Paul, I lean in because Paul says, I have learned the secret of being content. I think sometimes we have false assumptions around what brings satisfaction. For some, we think, well, a higher standard of living will make me content. But it's simply not the case. Do you know that there's studies that actually indicate that once you've reached a certain threshold of household income, additional income actually isn't going to bring you any more happiness? And then there's a second study that actually says once you actually get beyond a certain threshold of income, you actually become even less discontent in life. I know in my travels back to Malawi, working in the prisons and in some of the poorest, impoverished areas of the world, I look at people who literally have nothing, yet live with a sense of joy and are content. And maybe anecdotally you see that as well. Maybe you see it in your life or you've seen it in the lives of others. That just because people have more stuff, it doesn't make them any more satisfied in life. Or maybe we fall in the false assumption of thinking, well, if I just have greater success, then I'll be satisfied. If I can just get to the next plateau in business or in work or in my career, then I'll be content. And I don't know about you, but what I find in that scenario is that once I get to that plateau, absolutely I enjoy it and I'm content. But then suddenly I start to look around and guess what? There's another plateau ahead of me. And pretty soon, your life is all about climbing to the next plateau, thinking, then I will find satisfaction. Or for some, we follow the false assumption of thinking, it's in relationship, that if I can just find the right someone, or if things with my spouse would get better, or things with my kids would get better, then I'd truly be satisfied. But that's a lot of weight to put on the shoulders of someone else. Or maybe you land in the place of making the assumption, if I just didn't have this difficulty, if I just didn't have this hardship, then I'd be content. But I think the reality is that there must be something even greater. This is a struggle that is not just simply something that we face in our lives. But you go back over the years and you see people continually struggling with this sense of where do I find satisfaction in life? You jump back into the Bible in the Old Testament, and there's this interesting book called Ecclesiastes. Maybe you want to read it through this week. If you do, just do me the favor of read it entirely through. It's only 12 chapters, won't take you too long because you don't want to stop too soon. But Ecclesiastes is written by a guy by the name of King Solomon, one of the most successful kings in the nation of Israel. He had everything. He had power, he had wealth, he had pleasures, and unlike many kings, he was in a period where there was no war or no land to conquer. And so what did he do? He started to reflect upon his life, kind of write his memoirs, and that's what Ecclesiastes is. And you hear this phrase coming up over and over and over again, that for Solomon, all of life under the sun seemed meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Yeah, kind of depressing, I know. But there's someone who seemingly had everything by the world's standards, yet he still wasn't satisfied. And so where do we turn? As we jump back to the words of what Paul has to say, we see it in verse 13, where Paul says, I can do everything through Jesus who gives me strength. I know we keep coming back to the same reality, but for me, it's this understanding of recognizing that it is in Jesus that we find this ultimate sense of joy. That when our focus is upon Him, that absolutely we can find joy in many of the good things in life. But our ultimate content, our ultimate satisfaction is found not in what we have to do, but rather in what Jesus has done for us. When Jesus speaks of the abundant life, He's speaking of the reality of this incredible gift that we receive when we choose to follow Him. It's what King Solomon was getting to in Ecclesiastes when he was saying everything under the sun is meaningless. Because then he says something else. He says, God has set eternity upon our hearts. That ultimately, in our pursuit of the things of this world, the thing that can only bring ultimate satisfaction is this life lived with God. This understanding that no matter if we have a lot or a little, we can be content. Because Paul was someone who understood this. He understood what it was to have a lot. He also understood what it was to have nothing. But the thing that he wanted first in his life was this focus upon Jesus. And so what does this mean? Where do we go from here? Because maybe for some, you're nodding along and saying, yeah, I get it, but how does this become a reality? It's the understanding of taking belief and allowing it to become behavior. For some, it may be a first step for you to simply acknowledge the fact that you need Jesus in your life. That you focused so much on the things of the world that you're stepping back and saying, yeah, Jesus, I want you as a part of my life. For others, it's this idea of beginning to allow it to become a daily practice. Last week, we talked about the practice of praise and of confession and how, again, they focus our eyes upon Jesus. When I go back to the words of Paul, I love the fact that he says, I have learned to be content. It's something that just doesn't, happen automatically. It's this practiced behavior. And so how do we learn contentment in Jesus? Let me suggest one practice. It's not the only practice, but maybe it's something for us to be focusing upon in the coming weeks. To learn contentment that is found in Jesus, I find I need to be more diligent in the practice of celebration, both inwardly and outwardly. And what I mean by that is when we celebrate in the midst of life, suddenly our focus is placed back upon Jesus. And so what does this look like? Celebrate inwardly means to recognize in the moment we are in the good things that God has given to us. I think one of the dangers of pursuing success or satisfaction as the be-all and the end-all is that we sacrifice the present for the future. We sacrifice what is going on right here, right now. It's why Jesus so often says, you know what? Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will sort itself out. Focus on me today. And so one of the things I attempt to do, and I'll be honest with you, some days are better than others, but I try to celebrate, to give thanks for what I have today. Because if we're able to celebrate what we have today, we're more less likely to suddenly say, I need to find contentment and satisfaction in something else. Because we realize what we have. But there's a second step. And that is not just simply to celebrate what we have in our own lives, but to celebrate in the lives of others, to celebrate outwardly. I think one of the great traps of contentment or satisfaction is the trap of comparison. Have you ever landed there where you're satisfied with something, but then you look up and you see someone else in the same pursuit as you, and they seem to have a little bit more or do it a little bit better, and suddenly your sense of satisfaction doesn't really seem so great anymore, does it? And so you pursue, you compare, you become jealous. And that just starts to erode our element of celebration. And so one of the things that I try to do is to celebrate the success of others. Celebrate the achievement of others, especially in the areas that I really want to do well in my life as well. You see, to be a follower of Jesus doesn't mean that you can't find joy in other things. But to be a follower of Jesus means you take less focus off of yourself and place it on Jesus and on others. And I believe that's what celebration does. It acknowledges the good things that God has given to us in life, but it also allows us to celebrate the good that God is doing in others as well. This week, I hope that you continue to keep your focus on Jesus, the one I believe who brings ultimate joy in the midst of all things. And begin the practice, the art, the discipline of celebrating. Be intentional. Be specific. And begin to experience the reality of this transformation that happens when we allow Jesus to become the center of our lives. Let me just pray before we conclude. And so, Lord Jesus, again, we thank you for this time. This reminder that even though we are apart, we can still manage to be together. Jesus, perhaps the first place to begin is simply confessing that too often I pursue the things of this world, that I pursue contentment in the things that I do or the accomplishments that I may achieve. Help me be reminded again that ultimate satisfaction is found in you. I also pray this coming week that as individuals, we'd not only be able to celebrate the good in our lives, but to be able to celebrate what's happening in others as well, to be a real encouragement to them. And so, Jesus, we ask this all in your name. Amen.
Good to go.
All right, thanks, fellas. You know what I love about doing this stuff online is the fact that, like my mom thinks I'm all dressed up, but I got like suit on top and shorts on the bottom. You guys are done recording this, right? Like we're not going to show this. So
we'll never use this.
All right, because the secret's out.
I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and a voice I hear falling on my ear. The Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known.
He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, and the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing.
And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known.
I'd stay in the garden with him.
voice.